Hello viewers, thank you very much for watching Gibbs TV. Today's video will be focusing on how to write a book chapter, academic book chapter. Okay, there was a video on how to write academic book. Okay, this particular video is focusing on how to write a book chapter. Okay, so one will ask, what is a book chapter? Okay, what even goes into a book chapter? All right, for you to be able to write either a fiction book or non-fiction book, where a fiction book is basically looking at entertainment book or book that deals with storytelling, all right, and non-fictions are basically most of the academic books, okay? In either form or type of the book, you are likely to write it into chapters, okay, or episodes. All right, so we're going to focus on non-fiction books, that is how to write book chapters for non-fiction books. So what is academic book chapter for a non-fiction book? Okay, according to Enago Academy, okay, academic book chapter is defined as a section or division of a book, and these are usually separated with a chapter number or title. And the chapters divide the overall book's topics into topic-specific sections. Okay, so the chapter gives you an idea about what is made up of the table of content. Okay, and even with each table of content, in terms of chapter in the table of content, you see specifics, subheadings. Okay, so academic book chapter takes into account several headings or subheadings in a particular chapter. Okay, so a chapter divides the overall book topic into topic-specific sections. Further, each chapter in the book is related to the overall theme of the book. Okay, that is why in the previous video, if you guys were able to watch it, you observe that before you come out to the chapter, okay, you need to brainstorm. Okay, think about your audience. What do you want your audience to get from that particular chapter? And how long should a book chapter be? How long should a book chapter be? Typically for non-fiction books, that is for academic book chapters. Okay, for non-fiction book chapters should be small and must only include information related to one major idea. Okay, so for non-fiction or academic books, it's only sometimes fall around or between 50,000 to 70,000 words count. And each book will comprises, it depends on the author, okay? 5 chapters, 6 chapters, 10 chapters through 20 chapters, okay? Depending on the volume in terms of the number of pages that the publisher is requesting. So that is also going to inform the author to create the chapters to match the particular number of pages or word count that is required from the publisher. And each book chapter word count should also ranges between 3,500 and 7,000 words count. Okay. All right. So take note of that. Sometimes people are of the opinion that, well, because I'm able to write my thesis or dissertation, then I can write a book. Well, they are academic writing, though, but there's a difference between you writing a book and you writing a thesis or a dissertation or a project. Okay, because the language will change, the audience that you are writing for also differ. Or for a particular thesis or dissertation, you are writing it for just your supervisor or your committee, a dissertation or thesis committee. But this, for a book, you are writing to the public. Okay, so anyone who is interested in the concept that you're writing about is your target or prospective audience or target or reader. You see that it varies in terms of what you want to do. There are 5 major differences between book chapter and thesis or dissertation chapter. And according to Enago Academy, you observe that for the case of thesis chapter, okay, the reader is generally your thesis examiner or your committee. Okay, but for book chapter, the reader is anybody who is interested in the topic of your book. And for the case of a thesis, okay, thesis chapter often deals with more than one idea at a particular time in a chapter. But for a book chapter, generally deals with only one idea, the idea that you want to communicate, okay, what you want your reader to get from that particular concept, okay, that you want to treat in the chapter. So book chapter generally deals with only one idea. Then when you talk about a thesis chapter, these thesis chapters are not standalone and can depend on other chapters of the thesis to make sense. But for book chapters, sometimes they are standalone, sometimes they are interconnected, but majority of the book chapters are standalone and must establish relevance in the book, why it is relevant in that particular book. But remember that the heading that you are giving to the book must summarize the entire chapters. It should be able to capture, okay, the importance of the chapters in that particular book. So it's very important to take note of that. And typically, thesis chapters fall between 10,000 to 12,000 words long. Okay, in terms of thesis or dissertation writing, okay, it's not all that voluminous as compared to a book. Because if before even your book could be considered for a publisher to even give you a contract, you are likely to write over 200 pages. Okay, and most of the time you see thesis and dissertations, majority of them are falling about around 100 to 150 pages. Yes. Just in the few occasions you see a thesis start for around 200 pages. All right. How to write a book chapter. This is where the whole work goes in. There are 7 steps that was outlined by Enago Academy. Okay, the 7 steps to write a book chapter. 1, you need to collect relevant information. That is, you have to make sure that you have the data, you have the literature to, help you organize your chapter. Because once you know the concept, the title or the chapter title or heading, okay, you have to structure the chapter. So you need to design the chapter structure, and you can only design it based on the information that you're able to collate it. Okay, the readings, okay, the literature you gathered, the facts and the information need to be structured. So based on it, you're going to give themes or subheadings. So writing an appealing chapter or title or headings, you need to structure it well by designing an entire chapter. Then after the chapter, you give the title for the chapter based on the information that you are able to collect. Then you build an engaging introduction. So every chapter, you need to introduce a chapter, right? Then after you're able to introduce the chapter, then you have to elaborate on the main points of the chapter, that is subheadings. Okay, though if you introduce the chapter, then introduce the concept that you're going to discuss in the chapter, then you pick one concept, okay, one after the other, then you discuss each concept, okay, in a more detailed fashion. So you need to elaborate on every point that you have already introduced in the chapter. Then you summarize the chapter, okay. So you have to summarize and give your readers about the key points, the take-home points. Okay, so the summary is very, very important. So once you're able to finish the summary, then you need to also tell your reader what to expect in the next chapter. So you call it add a call to action and transition to next chapter. Okay, so these are the 7 tips that you can follow to write a very good chapter. Then once you come to this website, I'll put the link in the chat so that those who want to come and read more for yourself, you can come here and read. The first step, you collect relevant information. How will you even start by writing a chapter if you do not have necessary information or data? So you need to gather all this data and for relevant information to help you develop the chapter. Then the next step, you design the chapter structure. How do we design it? First of all, you need to have a title or a heading. Then you give an introduction, then the main body informative paragraphs, so you use themes. But in discussing every theme, you need to use informative paragraphs to do that. Then a summary of the chapter. Then you have a smooth transition to the next chapter. So basically, that is what the whole chapter is writing is about. So writing appealing or title chapter, okay, is often what you need to do, because every chapter you need to make sure that it has a clear and concise title, okay, or heading. Then after that, you introduce the chapter. Okay, once you introduce the chapter, then every point that you are able to introduce earlier, you need to elaborate on it in this particular area. But when you state a heading or subheadings, you need to explain it, supported information that you have already collected, the facts, the tables, the graphs, everything that you were able to gather for that particular chapter. You put them there for your readers to be able to enjoy the chapter. Then you summarize the chapter. As impactful was the entry, so should the exit must also be what? Impactful. So the summary is the part where you are almost done. And this session is a key takeaway, okay, for your readers. What you want your readers to take home, okay, the takeaway for your readers is very important. You need to add it to the summary of the chapter, okay? All right. Then the last point is add a call to action and transition to the next chapter. This session comes at the extreme end of the book chapter when you ask readers to implement the learnings from the chapter. Okay, so it's a way of applying their newly acquired knowledge. Okay, so in this session, you can also add what we call a transition from your chapter to the succeeding chapter, telling them what to expect in the next chapter. So all this things help your readers, okay, to enjoy reading your book. So a book chapter must go, must be detailed enough, and it must be able to summarize what you want to, the skill set that you want your reader to acquire from that particular chapter. It's very important. Every chapter you need to brainstorm. Think about what you want your reader to learn from the chapter. What do you want them to know? Okay, why is that chapter important? Okay, who are your audience? All these things must help you to be able to organize and structure the chapter well so that your readers can enjoy reading your book. Thank you very much for watching Gibbs TV, and I will see you all